Hey guys, I'm Erica. I recently got the iPhone 14 and I know iPhone videos are super popular and I wanted to show you guys my new phone. Unfortunately, I actually got my phone through work, so it was already unboxed when I got it, or else I would unbox it on camera, but I've actually had it for like 5 days now and I still have my iPhone 12, which I previously had. So I am going to compare the two and just kind of talk about my initial thoughts of these two phones and whether I think it's worth getting an upgrade or getting the iPhone 14 versus getting the iPhone 15, which is now out. This is the iPhone 14. It's not a Pro or Max or anything, just the regular. I have it in the midnight color, which is a blue color. I will show you without the case. So this is what it looks like. It is definitely very close to black, but I feel like there is a blue tint to it, so it is kind of obvious that it's not a black. It's just a very, very dark blue. It has aluminum sides and a glass back, which does make it very slippery. When I first got the phone, I didn't have a case for it and I immediately went to the Apple store. And unfortunately, because the iPhone 15 is out, they really didn't carry many iPhone cases, so I just got the very generic silicone Apple case, which I mean, it's pretty good. It's pretty basic. I also put this magnet in the back of my phone because I have this attachment in my car that's like a magnet that I put on my vent so I can like place my phone so it's like I can see it if I have maps up or something. When I first got the phone, I actually put it in my old case because they literally feel like the exact same size, but unfortunately, I mean, Apple I feel like does this stuff on purpose. It doesn't work if you put it in the old case. Like the buttons are slightly switched like in their placement, so it was constantly pressing on the volume button. Unfortunately, you can't use the iPhone 12 phone case on an iPhone 14 phone. Even though they are almost exactly the same size, I think the iPhone 14 is the slightest bit smaller. I had it in this light like seafoam green color. And ultimately, the reason why I wanted an upgrade was I've had this since 2020 and it has been a good phone, but again, just because of the way Apple makes their products, my battery started dying really quickly. Maybe that's for me like charging it overnight or whatever. I also just noticed that my photos were just not nearly as good quality as a lot of other people who had a more updated phone, and since I could get an upgrade, I figured why not. The actual look of these two phones are very similar. Where the cameras are a little bit different, but they both still just have two lenses. One of the bigger differences between these phones is that Apple has now gotten rid of the SIM card. I did not have to set my phone up, so I am not exactly sure what that means. I don't actually even really understand that now that I say that. I don't know how it works, but there is no SIM card. Even though they both just have these two lenses on the back for their camera, the iPhone 14 definitely is a bit better quality. And also I noticed that you can film in a cinematic format, which kind of like blurs out the background. It's definitely a cool feature, and I feel like if you're into like aesthetic videos like that, especially if you have a YouTube channel or like to post videos or just get more aesthetic content, like I do feel like it's a really cool feature. Not sure if that is offered on the iPhone 13 or not, but it's not offered on my iPhone 12. Another cool thing about this phone is that AAA paired up with Apple, and they now have Roadside Assistance in areas where you don't have phone service. It can use satellite, so you can make that phone call, which I'm not somebody who goes camping or goes in places where there's not a ton of service, but if you are, I feel like that is a super helpful thing. That safety feature is pretty cool. Another thing is it will detect crashes, which I feel like that's actually a really cool feature, but I was reading that it has been kind of inaccurate for people. Sometimes when people are on roller coasters, it has felt like that person is in a car accident, and a lot of people have experienced 911 being called when they actually did not get in a crash. They need to iron that out, but the idea behind it I think is really great and could possibly save someone's life. It's not a perfect feature yet, so something that might be a little bit harder to tell is the front notch where like your front camera is apparently 20% smaller on the iPhone 14 than it is on my iPhone 12. And that is the biggest difference between the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 15 is they have actually gotten rid of the notch. It's now called the dynamic island versus the notch. I've seen kind of people having like mixed comments on it. For some people, it just makes that area like more obvious on the phone. But I think there are some cool features that come with it. You can use it to like click on things. I think that's more of just a preference of which one you like the look of more. Obviously, people who have had an iPhone forever are more used to the notch, and so it might just blend in more because that's what we're all used to. But I do think that the dynamic island is a new feature that's probably here to stay. Ultimately, I got the iPhone 14 versus the iPhone 15 just because this was what my upgrade qualified me for, and there aren't really a ton of differences between the iPhone 14 and 15, and really there's not a ton of difference between the iPhone 12 and 14. Really, I wanted an upgrade because I could have one. They always do improve the camera quality, and I feel like when you first get a new phone, the camera is the best, and then it just kind of slowly gets worse over time. I don't know if like with use and maybe like dropping it and stuff, seems like it gets worse as time goes on, but there really haven't been huge changes with the iPhone. They really look very similar, especially between the iPhone 12 and 14. There's nothing that is crazy different about them, just small upgrades that you would expect with newer phones coming out, but nothing like the design changes when, you know, we had more of the round phone and then it went to a more square look, and then getting rid of the home button, moving this off button. All of that I feel like are really big changes that Apple has made over the years, but we haven't had something super different since they got rid of the home button, which I think was when they came out with the iPhone XR, XS, that series of phones. So far, I am happy with it. I do think the battery life has been pretty good. It will last me through the whole day mostly. I do feel like I use my phone a lot. So far, it's been pretty good. I mean, I remember when my boyfriend first got, I think he has the 11 Pro, and his battery life would last him like over a day at a time. This one is not as good. I do think that the Pro, since they're bigger, they do have a bigger battery life. I think the only regret about getting the iPhone 14 over getting the iPhone 15 would just be that the way that Apple makes their phones, I feel like they plan the old ones to stop working well within a few years, and so I do feel like this one will probably not last me as long as if I were to get the iPhone 15. I think I'll start seeing glitches and issues with it much sooner, just because that's the way I feel like Apple designs all their products. There really hasn't been a huge change between this and my iPhone 12, especially with the size and everything. It feels the exact same. Having an updated iOS, there's obviously some new features and just the look of things are a bit different. This phone upgrade that I've made has been the most underwhelming phone upgrade that I've made with Apple. Most of the upgrades I've made throughout having an iPhone have been when like there's been a really big change made with the iPhone. So this is definitely the most similar to my old phone that I've ever had. I can give you guys another look of the phone. I would say again how I mentioned this is like a glass back, and I would not recommend using it without a case because it feels so slippery. The aluminum sides are I guess a little bit more grippy, but I definitely just felt like I was gonna drop this thing. It felt necessary to get a case immediately after buying it. Here it is with this blue case from Apple. This is the silicone case. If you do plan to not have a case, the glass screen on the back does really attract a bunch of fingerprints. Similar to the iPhone 12, I think because this is a lighter color, the fingerprints are less obvious, but on the midnight color, immediately I felt like I could see all of my fingerprints on the back of the phone when I didn't have a case on it. So far, that is pretty much all I have to say about this new iPhone 14. Let me know if you guys have more specific things you want to hear about this phone, if you want to know what's on my phone. I know some people like what's on my iPhone videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.